Paul Arnold here, sometimes known as Study Professor, and today I want to talk to you about how to shift a habit. And there's a lot of work that's been done that shows that over 40% of all our behaviours are driven by habits. Now, why does that happen? Because, well, habits save us a lot of energy and effortless behaviour, and we don't have to make decision making, and we can just run life upon this automaton track, and we can focus on the other more important things. You know, let's be quite frank, most habits are really useful. You know, we don't need to think about stuff, and that's a great place to be. But you know, we've all got a few negative habits, and we all want to try to reduce them. So here are a few hints and tips about things you could do. Now, the very first thing I want to say is, you know what? Forget about willpower. Willpower is useless. We all know it from our New Year's resolutions, from the promises we've either made to others or to ourselves. They last about 2 or 3 days at best. So you can't drive a habit change through willpower alone. You've got to link it to something really important for you. And that's why work that I do in this field is all about trying to find out what is that thing that it makes it be purposeful for them, and trying to link it into their identity of who they are as a human being. So for example, you know, and we'll talk a lot about weight loss, but you know, if you are redefining yourself like I am a healthy eater, it therefore means that once you've got that as a very high identity level, you're going to make actually more active, healthy choices in what you're going to put inside your body. Likewise, if you define yourself as being an athlete, you're going to be actually more happy to go out for that run, push yourself a little bit further, a little bit faster than if you just are defining yourself as just an average sort of guy. So actually, we've got to spend a lot of time in doing that stuff. And the other thing is that, you know what, negative pressure doesn't work. I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Because Festing, a great psychologist, came up with this thing called cognitive dissonance, which basically said, like, we have to make sense of our behaviours, because otherwise we get all so lost in who we are. And actually, therefore, what we'll do one of 3 things. We'll delete, we'll distort, and we'll generalise inside information coming into us to try to actually justify what we're doing. So actually, if you are, say, you know, wanting to stop smoking, and there's a pack saying, oh, it does horrible things to you, you know, what you're going to do is you probably want to just reject it. You probably not think about that. Or what you may do is say, well, hold on. My uncle, he lived till he was 90 and he smoked like a trooper. Therefore, I must have good genes. So actually, those things we either tend to reject or we tend to actually find a way around it. So we've got to turn it into positive stuff, and that's we'll come on to a bit later on too. And that's one of the things I want to do, is to talk about building that, you know, importance for us. Is I've talked in the past about what I call the Christmas Carol technique, and what we do is we start thinking like, if I were to have this new habit, this new behavior now, what would that do for my self-esteem? What would it do for my health? What would it do for my finances? What would it do for my career? What would it do for my relationship? Whatever that happened to be. And you think, yeah, that's really, really good. That's really, really powerful. And then say, now go 5 years out. What would it have done to my relationships in 5 years' time? What would it have done for my spirituality in 5 years out? What would it have done for my finances in 5 years out, etc. Then go 10 years out. Then go 15 years out. And then you're building this stuff, you're building this whole ability to say, this is really important to me. And if you're really not quite getting it, you can do the negative side. What is this costing me right now? So, you know, we've got to just link it into make it important. And it's very interesting, you know, a lot of big life changes happen on your 9th birthday. So when you're 29, 39, 49, 59, 69, because they become times of major re-evaluation. So what's going on there? You know, we need to build that re-evaluation ourselves in that stuff. So actually, there's a really nice model which talks about, you know, how we can start to break a habit. How can we start to? And often, it's much easier if you supplement than to try to break a habit. And it's to look at the cue, ritual, and reward. So cue, ritual, reward, and let's go and look at all those in turn. The first one is cue. Now what happens is some stimulus is happening that triggers us to go into this unconscious behavior, because a lot of habits is unconscious. And as we're not aware of the stimulus, we're not aware of what we're doing, and actually we need to raise all of this up to consciousness. So start becoming aware of, why am I doing that? What's caused me to do that? So I'll give you a classic example for me. You know, boredom is the key thing that makes me go in the kitchen to find something to eat. I am not hungry, but I'm just bored, and I'm using food as a way to supplement it. Well, now I know that boredom is my cue. I can now start working on what is the ritual that I'm going to try to change. But I know boredom, click, watch out, here comes the danger zone where I can start going to the toast or the peanut butter. And likewise, the environment. Certainly, if you can start to shift your environment, you're going to make a major difference to your things, because often environment is the cue. And a lot of work's been done about people who are in addictive patterns, that they get themselves clean, they then go back and they're with the same group of friends, they're in the same household, everyone else is doing drugs. Hey presto, it doesn't take them much before they're going back on drugs again. So actually, we've really got to look at how we're in the environment. How can we reshape the environment? About 20 plus years ago, I gave up drinking booze. One of my ways of trying to lose weight. And actually, it was really easy because my wife didn't drink. I wasn't in a household that did a lot of drinking. So that was made it really easy for me to go and do that. Now let's move from cue into ritual. So the cue, the stimulus, has now triggered us into doing something. Well, obviously, we've got to work out, what are we doing? So that's the first thing. And then once we worked out what we're doing, we need to now work out what is another way of doing it. And what I often say is, you know what we've got to do is we've got to find an alternate ritual and actually replace it with just a smaller change. Don't try and do big, massive change, because it's not going to work. So for example, let's take I get bored. I therefore go in the kitchen, I open the cupboard, oh, there's some bread, I'll have some toast, right? Well, actually, what I've now done is I now put beside my office table a bowl with lots of small apples. Why small apples? Because I don't particularly like apples, and a small apple is easier to eat than a big apple. But actually, therefore, when I get bored, I can just eat an apple. So what I've done is I've moved out from a negative habit of eating toast with lots of butter on and maybe with some marmalade into a slightly healthier habit, not perfect, of actually doing that, because I still need to address my fundamental issue of being bored. Now, if I was really clever, I'd do other ways as well, where maybe I would go for a walk and things like that. But I'm trying to work with the reality of the situation and not try to be far too clever about it. So let's say you're trying to reduce the amount of beer you drink. Don't try to give it all up. Just say, look, every third beer, I'll go and have an alcohol-free beer. That's much easier to go and do than to try to completely give it up. And one of the other things that work's been done is this idea about introducing sub-rituals. So these are almost like things that would help you to do the bigger thing. So for example, you know, in Weight Watchers and lots of work in losing weight, they've realized that diarising your food intake absolutely massively increases your likelihood to lose weight. So in other words, just get in the habit of writing it. And therefore what you do is every time you're sitting down to go and have some food, you lock that into there. And that's one of the other critical things. If you can lock your new habit into an old existing habit, you are much more likely to make it become a regular thing. So for example, as some of you already know, I row, and one of the key issues you need in rowing is great flexibility, and my hamstrings are so incredibly tight. So what I do every morning and night when I'm brushing my teeth, I put one of my legs up onto the bath at a time for a minute, and then I put the other leg on the bath, and that allows me to stretch it. So actually what I'm doing is I'm able to actually build a new habit onto an existing habit of doing something. And then this other thing is actually what we've got to do is be very clear up front to go this awareness thing about, you know, what is the cue and what is the ritual. So therefore we need to start right now, if then. If I get bored, then I'll have small apples. If I do that, then I'll do that. Yeah. So the if then is a really important model to go and use. Then we go into reward. Now, the reality is, why did the behavior come about in the first place? Because it was rewarded at some level, and if you get rewarded, you're more likely to go and do it. So that's the problem with most diets. Most diets is paying today for gain in the future. We are living in a world where we don't care about the future, we want it now. So actually, we've got to find ways of rewarding ourselves now. And the interesting thing is, the brain doesn't really compute whether it's a real reward or a fake reward. So strangely enough, all these emojis or ticks or smileys are just as powerful reward as actually being given something much more physical. You know, I was doing something a number of years ago where I was trying to make sure I was trying to make contact with lots of different people. And I set up a reward system. So I gave myself 100 points a day. So basically, if I did an email, I gave myself 10 points. If I did a phone call, I gave myself 25 points. If I had a meeting, I gave myself 100 points. It was completely artificial, but actually it's very effective at making me every single day start to actually develop my business further on. And actually, you know, you think about it, the other thing is to actually focus on progress. So that's a reward as well. So in other words, you know, if you've gone and lost £5, that's brilliant. Record it. I've lost £5. Don't, for goodness sake, don't focus on the other £25 you've still got to lose, because that's just demotivating. It's like when I go on the rowing machine, I'm setting up to actually look at time elapsed rather than time yet to go, because if I'm 30 minutes, if I'm doing a 30-minute piece, I don't really want to be reminded after 5 minutes I've still got 25 minutes of pain. So I hope all that stuff works. So it's cue, work out what is the stimulus, work out what is the ritual, find another easy way of actually changing it, and then make sure there's a reward that goes into it, and then you can start to, and let's be quite frank, this ain't easy, right? But however, if you keep working at it, and you keep working at it, keep working at it, and you've got a high level purpose why this is important, you're going to have much more likelihood of changing that habit. Anyway, good luck. Take care. Bye.